Well, we've got one ticket punch to the conference championship tomorrow, and this second semifinal has all the makings of a classic wire-to-wire finish that you do not want to miss. One team will move on, and one team will see their season come to an end. Who will make it to the finals tomorrow? We've got an excellent meet ahead of us today. Good afternoon and welcome back to the Shaw Athletic Center on the campus of Emmanuel University here in Franklin Springs, Georgia for the 2026 Conference Carolinas Acrobatics and Tumbling Championship semifinals. I'm Anna Catherine English, and with me here today is Jada LaRock, a senior student athlete on the Acro Tumbling team here at Emmanuel, and we're thrilled to be back for our second semifinal match between number 2 seed Lander and number 3 seed Montevallo. Acrobatics and tumbling is one of the fastest growing sports in the NCAA. It blends strength, flexibility, and synchronization in a way unlike anything else. And with the sport now on track towards its first NCAA championship in the spring 2027, the stakes have never been higher. Since its introduction as an emerging sport in 2020, Conference Carolinas has been at the forefront of its growth, consistently sending teams to the national stage over the past 6 years. Jada, I'm so glad to have you back. We've had a nice little break, but it's good to be back, and it's good to see these two teams.
Yep, I'm excited to see how these two teams are going to pan out after watching Wingate and Coker go against each other. These teams are very close in season scores, so this is going to be an interesting meet, and it's all going to come down to the wire.
Absolutely. This is definitely one of the most evenly matched semifinals that we have on paper. These are two teams with almost identical records, but they are very different when it comes to skills on the mat. Lander is currently ranked number 12 in the nation in the current NCATA Top 15 poll. Wingate is number 14, so very interesting. Wingate is undefeated because they did get Lander already this year.
Yep.
They got him by a couple points at the beginning of the year, but Lander actually has one of the higher team scores for the year, so that is what's bumping them up to be number 12. And you can hear Lander has a great presence here today. Montevallo had a big quarterfinal win over King University this past Tuesday to make its way to Franklin Springs today, and they will be taking on Lander, who's had a little bit of a break. They last competed last week, and so this is going to be kind of like how it was earlier. We had a team that had to go from the quarterfinals to the semis. Same thing here today, a team going from the quarterfinals to the semis. So we'll see how that pans out here today. All right, as we finish up introducing the teams, just a reminder of how this meet is broken into 6 events: the compulsory, acro, pyramid, toss, tumbling, and the team event. Every 10th of a point matters, every landing counts, and over the course of these 6 rotations, we will see who will rise and whose season may come to an end as a team. Montevallo brings dynamic difficulty, and they're not afraid to push the envelope in every event. When they hit, their scores can climb quickly, and their coach is the current Conference Carolinas reigning coach of the year. So you can tell that she has put in so much time and so much effort into making this team be even bigger and better. And, of course, Lander is entering today with confidence and composure. Like we've said, they're the number 12 team in the country, only behind a few D2 teams, but mainly D1 teams. So they're really holding their own in the nation, and they're going to look at every possibility to capitalize on all the opportunities to separate themselves from Montevallo and hopefully make their way to the conference finals tomorrow. Some keys for Montevallo in this meet is they need to hit the high difficulty skills clearly and keep the technicality strong and sound. And they really need to avoid major deductions in the heats. That's something that they have kind of struggled with on and off this season. And so they really need to keep things consistent and avoid those major deductions. For Lander, they've got to control the tempo of the meet. They do their best when they set themselves apart early. And they've got to be nearly flawless today. They've seen some very high scores. They have the current athlete of the year on their team. So they are ready to go, and I'm excited to see what this is going to bring. We've just been talking about how much fun this meet is going to be because these teams, their warm-ups were great. They were hitting great skills, and so this is going to be a really awesome meet, and you guys are in for a treat.
Yeah, I'm excited. Lander definitely has something they want to fight for with, wanting to go against Wingate tomorrow because of their loss to Wingate recently. So Lander is on a revenge tour, and they will not let anything get in their way. So today will be a very good day to see what they are made of and how much they actually want it.
Absolutely. All right, so we are going to get started with the compulsory event, which each team will compete with identical predetermined set of skills with a predetermined starting value of 10. There are going to be 4 heats in this event: the acro heat, the pyramid heat, the toss heat, and the tumbling heat. Lander comes in averaging a 37 total event score, with their two strongest events being the pyramid and the toss, where they're averaging a 9.69 in both events. Montevallo averages slightly less with a 36.01 total event score, and their strongest event is the pyramid, where they're averaging a 9.67, which is a very impressive number for them to be getting. So we will start off with Montevallo coming out onto the floor first in the compulsory for acro. We will see Tracy Leopold, Corian Wilcox, Raiden Register, Olivia Preston, Katie Quinn, Allie Torres, Rylan McAllister, Caitlin Smith, and Thabella Fashu Kanu. Really solid start here for Montevallo.
Good timing.
Very clean so far. We can see every element being executed so far. Nice switch ups.
Little bobble. Good high catches.
All in all, a really great start for Montevallo. A really great start.
Love it. I love the energy already.
They tied their season high on Tuesday in this event in the quarterfinals against King, scoring a 9. So really great for them. Their average, like we said earlier, is an 8.7 in this acro event for the compulsory. So to get a 9 last week and the week before and the week before that, they're riding pretty high on having a nice consistent streak within that acro event. Next up, we will have Lander University. Out on the floor for Lander in this event will be Olivia Brewer, Kaden Groom, Rihanna Philcox, Casey Sutherland. The Athlete of the Year for Conference Carolinas, Ashlyn Shively, Kayla Martin, Chloe Powers, Alana Eckert, and Caitlin Scalu. Lander comes in averaging a 9.13 in this event, and about 2 weeks ago in their meet at Newberry, they scored their season high 9.65. So I know that they are looking to get that score or even better it today if they can. But they've been very consistent over the last few weeks with scoring as high as they possibly can in this event.
Really good timing. Needs to open up a little more on this inversion.
Yeah, we don't want it to look too C-shaped, and it was starting to have that curve to it. We really want that inversion to have that plank style, straight up and down. Very nice, strong switch ups to the arabesque and the full down.
Good high catches.
A very, very clean start. Very clean start for Lander. Just need to have that inversion, have that very tight motion, have that body a little bit tighter up. But again, really great start for the Bearcats. Next up, we will move into the pyramid. Montevallo has a great season average in this. They are normally scoring a 9.67 in their pyramid. So, again, a really strong event for them coming up. And Lander, just ahead of them for a season average. They are scoring a 9.69. But Jada, 2 weeks ago, Lander got a 10 in this event. It is the only 10 in this event for the season. So I know that they are itching to make that 2 in a row. So we'll see how that happens today. But again, these two teams are very evenly matched when it comes to this pyramid event inside the compulsory. So this is going to be very wire to wire, very head to head. And it's really going to come down to those little nuances in between to really separate these two. All right, up on the pyramid, we will have Michaela Robinson, Corinne Wilcox, Lizzie Sims, Fabella Fashukanu, Olivia Preston, Morgan Wright, Katie Quinn, Ryla McAllister, Ashley Allen, Muriel Palmore, Caitlin Smith, Allie Torres, and Daisy Grace Middleton. A nice start from Montevallo.
Really instinct straddles. Nice height catches.
Great job from Montevallo. That was very solid. Those bases did not even make a move.
Nope.
There was no stuttering from those bases. They were rock solid, and that's really what kept everything else going together from the mid to the top. Those bases, man, they really had that box check there.
And those tops or straddles were just in sync. They look the exact same up there, which is a really good eye pleaser when you're watching acros and synced acros.
Yeah, especially for the judges, because it allows for them to see that skill being presented right in front of them at pretty much the most flawless way that you can do it. All right, up next for Lander, we will have Rachel Webster, Alana Eckert, Audra Kaiser, Morgan Exodus, Rihanna Philcox, Riley Hoffman, Julie Schmitzko, Lainey Carroll, Kaden Groom, Ashlyn Chively, Kayla Martin, Chloe Powers, and Danielle Casuto. Lander does have an average of a 9.69, and a reminder that they did score a perfect 10 in their last meet against Newberry. Wow.
That was amazing.
That was fantastic. You can see why they got a 10 at their last meet. That was, we kind of said it earlier with Wingate. That was very robotic, but I love it because that's clean. I see everything. I know those judges are checking box, box, box. We see it. And that's exactly what you want, especially in this event where you're all having to execute those same scores. You've got to make sure you have everything checked so that way you are getting every point humanly possible.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you could tell, but one of the tops, you could actually see her eyes shifting towards the other top to make sure that they were the same height in sync, and that's what you need when doing a synced pass or a synced event. You want to make sure that you can see your other top, your other base, your other mid, and make sure that y'all are all on the same timing in order to execute it properly.
And that can be really difficult to do in these synchronized pyramids just because your surroundings aren't really normal. You want to make sure you're correct, but you also want to make sure you're not going too fast, you're not going too slow. So huge props to that top for understanding, okay, I can use my eyes a little bit to gauge, am I going too fast, am I going too slow? All right, we are moving into the toss. In this, we will have Michaela Robinson, Raiden Register, Alyssa Craig, Olivia Preston, Taylor Spaney, Katie Quinn, Allie Torres, Corianne Wilcox, Peyton Roach, Zoe Cooper, and Daisy Grace Middleton.
Very pretty. Nice high tosses, nice high catches.
And they're averaging a 9.49. They've hit a 9.75 twice this season. So again, Montevallo is really surprising with their consistency. You know, you kind of being in Alabama and everybody else is kind of in the Georgia and the Carolinas. Montevallo is like, hey, we're here and we're fighting our way up there. So a great toss for Montevallo. All right, up next for Lander in the toss is Ashlyn Shively, Kaden Groom, Rihanna Philcox, Casey Sutherland, Audra Kaiser, Jalen Barentes, Kayla Martin, Caitlin Skaloo, Alana Eckert, Morgan Exotics, and Jaden Izari. And in this toss event, Lander is averaging a 9.69. Their highest score of the season came back in February with a 9.85. But they've been very consistent with a 9.8, 9.75, 9.5, 9.7. So I expect that score to be very similar. But hey, maybe we'll see a season best here now. That was beautiful. I think the toes were a little off. One set of toes kind of came forward a little bit faster, but other than that, the timing was great. There was a little bit of off on the toes coming through.
Yes.
But other than that, again, a great.
Just opened up a little bit sooner than the other top, but still really good height. Still, high catches from the bottom. So
absolutely, and a great start for them too to go ahead and get some of these tosses out of the way. Kind of makes the rest of the day feel a little less intimidating when you kind of start checking off some of these skills ahead of time and you're thinking, okay, well, we've already done a toss, so the tosses later aren't too bad, or we've already done tumbling. The tumbling later is not too bad. That's kind of the best part about this is it goes quickly, but it kind of gives you a solid warm-up for what comes next throughout the rest of the event and the meet this afternoon. We will be moving into tumbling next. Tumbling for Montevallo is Taylor Spaney, Michaela Robinson, Lexi Cole, Allie Torres, Morgan Wright, Katie Quinn, Riley McAllister, and Zoe Cooper. Montevallo is averaging an 8.15, so this is not necessarily their highest scoring of the compulsory event, but they've been pretty consistent. They've definitely gotten better as the season has gone on. Very nice standing tucks. Very nice and clean so far for Montevallo.
We love sticky feet, and that's what they're getting right now. Little timing issues, but got back on it.
Yeah, all in all, a really great section of tumbling from Montevallo. You're right, in that running tumbling, we did see some timing errors. So again, the judges will see that, but all in all, really great start for them. Again, this hasn't necessarily been their strongest phase of competition in this event, so I think that they're just hoping that they do, that they're keeping it consistent. But they've done so well in everything else so far. So up next for Lander, tumbling will be Ashlyn Shively, Morgan Exotics, Jaden Izari, Julie Schmitzko, Jalen Barentes, Audra Kaiser, Chloe Power, and Kaden Groom. And Lander is averaging an 8.48. So again, this isn't necessarily their best event either. Their highest score of the season came at the beginning of the season against Francis Marion, scoring a 9.35. However, they've not ever gotten back to that 9.35 yet for the rest of the season. So hopefully today they've got sticky feet, they've got good timing, and they can bring up their average for the season with a good score here today. And that's going to be what separates these two at this point. Mm-hmm. Everything has been so clean and consistent between them so far. So it is going to take these little extra, half a point here and half a point there. It's going to be the difference between these two.
Yes, this meet will be very, very close. The last meet was close also, but this one will definitely be close just due to how close their scores are and have been throughout the season.
And again, keep an eye on number 2, Ashlyn Shively. She is the reigning Conference Carolina Athlete of the Year. Great height on those toe touches to the back tuck.
A few steps here and there, so that'll be fun.
A little step forward there on the front row. Little scoots, but great timing. Great timing all across the board. Couple little scoots, but hey, no touch-outs. Everything was very great. Again, just those little things, but that's going to be what these judges are looking for. All right, we are waiting for those final scores and averages for this first section to come in. Up next, we are going to move to the Acro event where we'll see partner skills and groups competing in 3 different heats of 5, 6, and 7 elements. Technique from bases and tops is going to be key in this event, and the 6th element will include duo groups, so synchronization is going to be an additional factor for judging in this heat. Lander does lead the way in this event with a 27.88 season average, with their 3 high scores coming in the last 3 weeks. Montevallo averages a 26.89 this season, and its strongest score comes in the 5-element heat. Judges are going to want to see height, control, and technique at its absolute best. These final scores are taking a little bit of time to come in for this first event, but we're not entirely surprised by that because both teams were so evenly matched throughout those first those first several heats for the compulsory event. So we're waiting for those final scores to come in, and then we will update and then move into the acro. All right, scores are in for the compulsory event. In the acro, Montevallo with an 8.875 and Lander with a 9.25. In the pyramid, Montevallo with a 9.7 and Lander with a 9.725. In the toss, Montevallo with a 9.55 and Lander with a 9.575. And in the final heat of tumbling, Montevallo with an 8.275 and Lander with an 8.475. So currently the total scores are Montevallo with a 36.4 and Lander with a 37.025. So we were right on the money. It's close.
It's close. It's only the first event, and it's less than a point difference. So this is going to go down to the wire and team event to see who will take on Wingate tomorrow.
Absolutely, absolutely. And both teams want it so bad. Lander wants to avenge that season loss. Montevallo wants to prove themselves. I'm so excited for what today's about to bring because this is going to be very exciting. All right, up first for Montevallo in the 5-element, Lexi Cole, Rylan McAllister, Alessandra Vega. Great strength from that single base underneath.
Straddle push to handstand. Very strong base down to pike. Wow.
Beautiful.
Beautiful control from the top and the base. That type of skill is very hard to do. That takes so much core and arm strength control that very few people can do that.
Montevallo has scored a perfect 10 in this event so far this year. They're averaging a 9.42. They've had some really, really great scores. They haven't actually gone below a 9.5. They haven't gone below a 9.1 at all. So they've got a really great, since Valentine's Day, they've had solid scores. All right, moving into Lander. Lander has a start value of a 10. In this 5-element, you're going to see Ashlyn Shively, Rihanna Philcox, Paloma Dean, Lainey Carroll, and Michaela Crinson. Lander's got an average of a 9.7 in this event. They've been so close to a perfect score, but they've had such solid, consistent scores so far this season.
Very nice. Pull off.
Slight lean back in that landing. Ooh. Way to save it. Way to save it.
It's a little too close.
Yeah, a little too much of, that pushover. And that's where you have to be so specific with that pushover because one wrong move and your body is going over your base. And then what we kind of just saw happen now, they had a great save.
Yes.
They had a great save. They did not let it come down. And they were still able to execute their dismount without hitting each other, which I was a little worried at first that they were going to hit feet to face with one of the catchers. But again, they did a great job saving that stunt. And, while they may see a smidge bit of a deduction due to how that did finish up, they had a great save because that could have gone so much worse if everybody hadn't kind of done their jobs and saved that stunt. All right, so we will be moving into the 6-element synchronized acro. Again, this is 2 groups. Group 1, Corianne Wilcox, Tracy Leopold, Muriel Palmore, and Raiden Register, and Michaela Robinson, Peyton Roach, Daisy Grace Middleton, Kimmer Myers, and Caitlin Smith. They have got a starting value of a 9.35. And they're averaging with this one an 8.39. So I know that they want to be able to up that score here today on that average. But their highest score of the season is an 8.95. A little bit of timing on that, but skills executed nicely. Good. Not bad. Those inversions were a little C-shaped again, which did allow for those bases to be a little bit, starting to get a little wobbly underneath. Other than that, though, great timing on a lot of the elements in that. Again, we've talked about this time and time again. Synchronized anything is so difficult because you are truly praying that everyone's hearing those counts when they need to hear those counts. You're hoping that everybody's doing exactly what they're supposed to do at the same time. There were a few timing issues with some of the releases and some other things, but across the board, a really great heat for Montevallo.
Lander getting some crowd participation in.
Yeah, it's not a far drive to get here from Greenwood. All right, up next for Lander. They've got a starting value of a 9.85. And in this sixth element, you will see Alana Eckert, Morgan Exodus, Jalen Barentes, Julie Smitsco, Jaden Azari, Kaden Groom, Chloe Powers, Daniel Cusido, and Lainey Carroll. Lander comes in averaging a 9.03 and had their highest score of the year 2 weeks ago against Newberry. Nice timing on that.
A little back in the landing. Good timing, took off the base a little bit. But
yeah, she did that in that first release as well. She's really pushing off that base, which I think is making her land a little bit heavier than she is meaning to.
Good timing. They were actually struggling with that pop over on the side, so I'm glad that they figured it out and could put something good out on the mat.
I think it helps that their inversions were exactly where we want to see them, really right up over the base's shoulders, and that was allowing for the bases to be able to hold a little bit stronger, and I think it did allow for them to come down at a more synchronized time frame. I was a little worried when they were practicing over to the left, it was coming down early, like you said, so great job by Lander. We're heading into our final heat for the acro. This will be the 7 element. For Montevallo, we will see Katie Quinn, Corian Wilcox, Caitlin Smith, and Raiden Register. And for this, they are averaging a 9.08. They've been a little back and forth with their scoring. It's been a little inconsistent. For this third heat, they did have their highest score of the season back at the very start against St. Leo, but they are averaging a 9.08. So I know that they know they're real close in score, so these girls know we've got to come out and we've got to execute. Montevallo does have a starting value of a 10. Very nice. Love when you can see that rotation in that full.
Very smooth walk-in.
Great job by that base. Something you don't see often, a little tuck toss at the end for their dismount.
Sometimes simple is the better way to go.
And that was very clean. Great job. Very nice. I love when the inversions are where they're supposed to be. It makes me very happy.
Montevallo is really showing out and showing us who they are and why they are here.
Absolutely.
In the semifinals.
Absolutely. They're not pulling out any stops today. They're letting it all go. And you know what? That is what's making for this to be so much fun to watch. All right, up next for Lander, they have a start value of a 10 as well. We will see Ashlyn Shively, Rihanna Philcox, Audra Kaiser, Kayla Martin, and Michaela Cruson. And Lander is averaging a 9.8 in this event. I'm sorry, a 9.16. Their highest score was a 9.8. So I know they would like to have that 9.8 like they did against Newberry the other week. But they've been pretty consistent. I would say the last 3 weeks, they've seen their kind of best scores, and they've only gotten consistently better. So maybe today is what they need to have a high score for the season. Very nice layout.
Good weight on the full.
Great inversion. Very nice. Very nice from Lander. Great job, ladies. So many very perfectly executed skills. The rotation in her full was beautiful. You could see that full rotation of her body, which again, that is exactly what the judges are looking for. All right, well, while we're waiting for these final scores, we will be moving on to the pyramid event. The pyramid is going to be bringing some of the most visually impressive moments of the meet. It's going to be multiple athletes working together on the mat to build complex structures. These pyramids must have an entry, a structure, and a dismount to be able to receive a full score. Each heat will have different requirements, so heat 1 will have the inversion, heat 2 will be synchronized, and then heat 3 will be the open. Once again, Lander does come in with the average score in this event being a 28.73 and seeing some of their best scores of the season in the last 2 meets versus Converse and Newberry. Montevallo is just behind them with a season average of 27.94, and they're going to need to see a very strong synchronized pyramid today to be able to keep up with Lander in this event. And we are still waiting on these final scores. Man, I'm enjoying this so far. I'm like, I don't know who's going to win.
I know, it's like nail biting. Like
it really is.
It keeps you intrigued the whole time, which is good, though, to have in a competition. You never want to watch something that you know is going to be a blowout.
True. That's so true.
Having this and it being so close and you're just like on the edge of your seat the whole time.
Who's going to win? Where are we going with this? I could not agree more. All right, scores are in for this event. In the 5-element heat, Montevallo with a 9.825. And Lander with an 8.875. In the 6-element, Montevallo with an 8.775. And Lander with a 9.25. In the 7-element heat, Montevallo with a 9.575. And Lander with a 9.375. So the grand total for Montevallo is a 64.575. And the total for Lander is a 64.525. So, folks, we have got ourselves a tight competition here. This is close. Oh, goodness. We are talking fractions of points separating these two right now. Absolutely unbelievable. And again, we are headed into the pyramid. So heat 1 from Montevallo, they have a starting value of a 10. You will see on the mat Lexi Cole, Ryla McAllister, Zoe Cooper, Morgan Wright, Caitlin Smith, and Alyssa Craig. And they're seeing an average of a 9.49 here, so a strong event for them this season. A little
wobbly.
Yeah, a little wobbly, which unfortunately that is going to kind of count against them a bit. They saved it, they kept it up, but it was a little wobbly right there before the dismount.
Very good hand strength from the base, though, in the top, fighting with each other until the end.
All right, so up next in this event is Lander. They have a starting value of a 9.80. And you will see on the floor Audra Kaiser, Alana Eckert, Ashlyn Shively, Lainey Carroll, Rachel Webster, Kaden Groom, Morgan Exotis, Brianna Philcox, Riley Hoffman, and Chloe Powers. And this group is stacked with a lot of Landers all-conference selections. You've got Audra Kaiser, you've got Brianna Philcox, you've got Ashlyn Shively, again, Athlete of the Year. So this is a great group. You know they've got a lot of experience because they are stacked with that all-conference and that Athlete of the Year. Lander is averaging a 9.4 in this event, but I will tell you this, Jada, Lander this is an incredible event for them when it comes to scores across the board. Heat 1, they're averaging a 9.4. Heat 2, they're averaging a 9.64. And Heat 3, they're averaging a 9.69. And they have only consistently gotten better in each heat in the last 2 weeks. So, I'm excited to see what Lander's getting ready to bring out to the floor because those are some really awesome scores. And that's got to make them feel a little bit more confident coming into this.
Yeah, I definitely think they're gonna feel more confident going into this, knowing that they have been progressively getting better in these events, but then also just keeping consistent of the same scores. So they're gonna be more confident going out here, and instead of having the worries of putting something out there, they can go out there confident and put on a show for us.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, let's welcome these ladies out to the floor. incredible
Nice.
strength.
Hand in hand.
Wow.
Nice high touch. Wow.
Wow, that was fantastic from
That was
Lander.
perfect handstand form. Toes were a little bit over, but
Yeah, you could tell she was ready for that dismount.
she was.
She was like, let me get out of this. That was a great event for Lander. And again, those mid layers are kind of, it's so tough because they're acting as bases and mid layers. And that's tough because, again, when you go back to cheerleading, the mid layers are support, but they're not always acting as the base in a sense. And so if that mid layer crumbles in any way, shape, or form, the whole thing's coming down.
Yep.
So shout out to the mid layer girls. I feel like they don't get enough love either.
No, I'm a mid myself.
See, yes, you get it.
It is tough.
Because you almost feel like if something goes wrong, is it my fault? Is it someone else's fault? And if the base goes wrong below you, you're like, well, it was your fault, not mine. But if the top girl goes wrong, you're like, was it me? And if the bottom girl goes wrong, you're like, was it me? And a lot of times also, too, we should probably mention that kind of the big difference between acro and cheerleading is you're really building more 2-1-1 structures. So the two bases at the bottom, or even just maybe one base at the bottom. And then sometimes they'll have a second layer kind of standing behind that mid layer like they just did with Lander. And then you've got your top girl. But with cheerleading, it's really just a, 2-2-1. So the weight is kind of shared by other people in cheerleading. So this is definitely a little bit tougher.
It's all on one, well, not all on one person, but
just stacking up.
As it stacks up, it gets more onto one person.
All right, in this final pyramid for Montevallo, we will see Katie Quinn, Corinne Wincox, Vanessa Pordunto, Kaylin Smith, Morgan Wright, and Peyton Roach.
Very good timing for Montevallo.
They were. Sorry, that pyramid was actually Katie Quinn, Rylan McAllister, Alyssa Craig, Muriel Palmore, Peyton Roach, Michaela Robinson, Corinne Wilcox, Vanessa Pordunto, and Lizzie Sims, and Morgan Wright, and Kaylin Smith. Hey, I hear you, lady from Montevallo. I like the spirit she's bringing. Like I said, it's not an easy drive to get from Montevallo to here in Franklin Springs, so shout out to everybody that I can see down there in purple who came to support all the way from Alabama. That is impressive. All right, we are going into Lander with a start value of 10. We will see out on the mat Alana Eckert, Audra Kaiser, Ashlyn Shively, Kayla Martin, Rachel Webster, Lainey Carroll, Maisie McManami, Kaden Groom, Olivia Brewer, Rihanna Philcox, Jaden Azari, Julie Smitsco, and Caitlin Sklew. And Lander is only averaging a 9.64 in this one, so I think they want to build onto this and see maybe one of their top scores for the season. We've got some back bend pyramids. Which, as we've kind of noted throughout the broadcast earlier and now, this requires an unbelievable amount of strength from those bases in the bottom because they are in a back bend and the girls are standing on their thighs and it is, you're just praying that you just don't collapse.
And in case you didn't notice, some of the Lander girls actually have more of a slanted back bend instead of dropping their hips real deep to get it super flat. So it's impressive how the bases can stack on top of that, keep it up, keep it clean, show their technique, and come down with great timing at a slant the whole time, which means they are fighting with their feet the whole time.
All right. We're going to move into the final of this pyramid event. This is the open pyramid, so this is going to be a collaboration of lots of different things. You might see a little bit of everything in this open pyramid. This is where we will see Katie Quinn and Corianne Wilcox and Vanessa Pordunto and Kaylin Smith, Morgan Wright, and Peyton Roach. Montevallo, this is of an event in which they've been pretty consistent all year long at 9.52. Their highest score did come at the very beginning of the season, and they have not quite matched it yet. Or they've had on Tuesday, they kind of met their season's best. So we will see how it goes. Not too bad. There was a little bit of shakiness from that mid, which I kind of feel like they couldn't get the full execution up top because there was a little bit of instability, but still very great. Still had good timing. Just would have loved to have seen a little bit more strength from that mid, but still a great pyramid overall.
Yeah, there might be some points taken off due to the top coming down on 3 instead of holding it for the whole 3 seconds, so there probably will be some deduction for that. But other than that, she has a good parallel pike, so good execution from Montevallo. Lander taking some deep breaths, calming themselves before they go out to do Heat 3 pyramid.
And in this pyramid, we will see Ashlyn Shively, Audra Kaiser, Alana Eckert, Kayla Martin, Rihanna Philcox, Kaden Groom, and Phoenix Woodard. They've got a start value of a 10. And this is actually their kind of strongest event in pyramid. They are consistently seeing a 9.69, and in their last meet against Newberry, they were so close to that 10. They had a 9.9, and I know they are going to be fighting for that 10, and they need that 9.9, 10 in order to jump back on top. Great pike.
Control. Beautiful.
That was great. That was exactly what they needed to do. That was fantastic. Man, again, we can't say this enough. This is such a close meet. It is going back and forth and back and forth. I am just, golly, it is going to come down to this team event. It is going to come down to the team event because right now these teams are so evenly matched, and we talked about that at the top of the broadcast. On paper, they have the similar records. They've got different styles on the map, but across the board, they are scoring so similarly all season long that we knew that this was going to be a tight matchup, and both of them are just fighting to the death to get this.
I love it, though. I love it.
All right, we are going to go into halftime, so please stay tuned. We will take about a 15-minute break. We will return with about 5 minutes left in order to provide you the rest of the pyramid scores and give you the running total. So we'll see you guys back here in about 10-ish minutes. Conference Carolinas is committed to aligning with businesses that share our common values and, like us, strive to attain excellence and virtue in all endeavors. We work hard to make our corporate partnerships a truly beneficial relationships through mutually agreed upon customization that will lead to unparalleled exposure. Learn more about how to become a corporate partner in Conference Carolinas at conferencecarolinas.com/corporate partners. Once again, that's conferencecarolinas.com/corporate partners. All right, everyone. Well, welcome back. We are getting ready to finish up halftime, and in any second, we will start to announce the pyramid scores, and then we will transition into the toss event. Now, a little bit about the toss event. This is where things are going to, no pun intended, take flight. Big air, high difficulty, and no margins for error on the catch and landing from each team. Lander's going to need to see their best synchronized toss score of the season to come out of this event on top, and Montevallo needs to be consistent in all 3 tosses to keep their score up with Lander. All right, so we are going to announce the pyramid scores. In the first heat, Montevallo had a 9.4 and Lander with a 9.35. In the synchronized heat, Montevallo had a 9.575 and Lander had a 9.675. And in the open pyramid heat, Montevallo had a 9.525 and Lander had a 9.825. So, folks, if you're keeping up with the score at home, that means Montevallo has a 93.075, and Lander has now jumped back on top with a 93.375. So it is literally hundreds of points separating these two going into the toss heat. And like I just said, Lander's going to need to see their best synchronized toss score of the season. That is one that they have kind of been struggling a little bit more with. It's their lowest average of the season. Whereas Montevallo is going to really need all 3 tosses to be season high best if they can. They really need to have strong tosses to take over and go back on top and just have that little back and forth battle. So in this first toss event, Montevallo is averaging a 9.0. They do have a starting value of a 9.3, so they are almost reaching that starting value with each toss. And for this first toss, we will see Katie Quinn, Allie Torres, Corianne Wilcox, Peyton Roach, Zoe Cooper, and Caitlin Smith. All right, I hear those Montevallo fans.
Getting excited for the second half of the meet.
We've got a pretty full house down there.
Mm-hmm. It's crunch time now with only 3 events left in the meet.
Every point is going to count. Every half a point is going to count. These teams are neck and neck. And it is really going to be every event matters. I mean, y'all can hear Lander didn't come short-handed with their fans here today.
Love the Acro Dads.
Yes, the Acro Dads are so good. They've actually got the most like decoration on themselves down there. Mm-hmm. Got like blue hats on, purple sweatshirts on. The dads are rocking it out there. All right, let's welcome the University of Montevallo out to the mat. Again, this is the 450 Salto Toss, Heat 1. Very nice.
Very nice, good rotation, nice high catch.
Man, you can tell they were all so excited about that.
They want a 10 for it.
Hey, they could absolutely be scoring a season high. All right, up next for Lander with a starting value of a 9.9. We will see Ashlyn Shively, Brianna Philcox, Kaden Groom, Casey Sutherland, Audra Kaiser, and Lainey Carroll. And Lander is, they've got some pretty solid scores in this. They are seeing an average of a 9.58. Their highest score came against Converse back in March with a 9.75. But they have not gone below a 9 in this heat at all. They have been very consistent. Their lowest score was at the beginning of the season with a 9.35. And they have been incredibly consistent across the board. So they really need this one to hit so that they can keep the climb against the Falcons. Again, with a starting value of a 9.9, we will have Lander University come to the floor.
Beautiful. Nice Arabian rotation to full.
That was very nice. And it was a nice catch, too. Not too high, not too low. Really nice catch. Really good absorption of the top. And we talked about this in the previous broadcast, but as we both had the cheer background, we both decided we do not love the thought of throwing a basket, essentially, from a prep level. For those of you who don't know, as you can see, when they are doing these tosses, they are coming and starting that toss at the chest level, which is very difficult. You are truly having to use your entire body to get your top girl as high up as humanly possible. But starting at that level is really hard. All right, we will be moving into Heat 2, which is the synchronized toss. For Montevallo, we'll see Katie Quinn, Allie Torres, Corianne Wilcox, Peyton Roach, Zoe Cooper, Tracy Leopold, Ashley Allen, Muriel Palmore, Morgan White, Dabella Fashukanu, and Caitlin Smith. With a starting value of a 9.4. Montevallo will need to see some of their best tosses here. The season average of an 8.66, they really need every point they can get.
Very nice technique for the fulls. A little off on the landing, but overall pretty good. Oh,
we lost a shoe.
Lost a shoe.
We lost a shoe. Hey, that's how you know they're working really hard. We lost a shoe.
At least her socks match.
Yes, that is so true. We love a little purple sock. I will say I love to see the excitement because you can tell that that was something that they really wanted to execute and they really wanted to hit, and they feel very good and confident with what they just put on the floor. So great second toss from Montevallo. Up next for their second toss in the synchronized heat is Lander. We will see Ashlyn Shively, Rihanna Philcox, Kaden Groom, Casey Sutherland, Audra Kaiser, Mia Gomez, Caitlin Sklew, Kayla Martin, Alana Eckert, Morgan Exodus, and Jaden Nazari. With a starting value of a 9.40. This is one that Lander's going to need to also have a season high, if possible. They are averaging an 8.66, so this isn't necessarily their strongest toss of the three. So they will need to see some of their season's best. They scored their highest score of the season back in the first meet of the season and have not really reached that 9 again since then. So Lander's going to need every point possible to fend off Montevallo. So let's see if they can get a season high here. Very nice. There was a little bit of a height difference from the left to the right tosses. Right went very high, exactly what we want to see. Left was just down a little bit, not terrible. That might affect their overall score because we do want to see, again, this is synchronized. Everything has to be perfect. So that height is going to make that difference. But when it came down to timing and execution, it was very good across the board. It was just that height. We just didn't quite see that synchronization there.
A lot of the times when the group is, shorter or you have a smaller top, you really want to explode a lot more than you normally would to get that top up higher to match the other top, just based on where they're at in the air.
All right, we are headed into the final toss, which is the open toss. Montevallo will have a starting value of a 9.4. And in this toss, we will see Tracy Leopold, Ashley Allen, Muriel Palmore, Morgan Wright, Isabella Fashukanu, and Caitlin Smith. And again, this is actually their weakest of all three tosses. They have a season average of an 8.64, and their highest score of the season was an 8.75. So they are really going to need to dig deep and pull out a season high score here. Again, with a starting value of a 9.4, this is Montevallo with the open toss.
Good full, a little slow rotation. Counter was counting a little fast.
Yes, it kind of affected those bases in the beginning. It kind of threw them off a little bit at the beginning. Obviously, they threw a great toss, so it didn't affect them in the long run. But the counter was a little quick in the beginning. All right, and then coming up for this third toss for Lander, we will see Mia Gomez, Caitlin Sklo, Kayla Martin, Alana Eckert, Morgan Exodus, and Michaela Crunson. Lander has a start value of a 9.4. And they have an average of a 9 in this, so they are scoring just below that starting value. And I know that they would love to see possibly a season high here. They're really going to need to dig down deep, though, because like we said, this is such a tight score between these two teams that they need every point they can get.
Nice high catch. It did travel to the side a little bit, but that bottom base did a really good job of not letting it knock her over. She really absorbed and held tight and
had those strong feet. She said, "I'm not going anywhere." It caught a little bit high too. Whenever you can hear the top girl's body kind of slap hit anybody underneath her, it's catching a little high. But again, because it was kind of a little wonky on the throw, unfortunately that led to the way that it caught. But again, that meant they saved it and everything was good. So they may see a couple little deductions on that. But across the board, a good final toss for Lander. So we will now move into the tumbling event, which we both love. I can't tumble, so I love it because I get to watch people do things that I have no business trying. But we will shift to tumbling, where individual athleticism takes center stage. Event is all about power, speed, and technique. This has 6 passes: the duo pass, the trio pass, the quad pass, the aerial pass, the 6 element pass, and the open pass. Lander does lead the conference this season with their average total of a 52-19, but they have very little room for error today if they want to make it through to the conference championships tomorrow. Montevallo struggled this season a little bit in the duo and the quad events, but if they can have a strong aerial and open score today, that's going to help them build the score before we head to the team event. And we are just waiting on these final toss scores to come in. This could be where we start to see a little bit of separation between the two, or we're going to be back in those fractions of a points again. We've got 2 events left, and these are going to be very, very imperative for these scores. All right, scores for toss are in. In the 450 salto heat, Montevallo scored an 8.9. And Lander with a 9.475. In the synchronized toss, Montevallo with an 8.6. And Lander with an 8.775. And in the final open toss, Montevallo with an 8.725. And Lander with the same score, an 8.725. So, again, if you're tallying these up at home, Montevallo has a 119.3. And Lander is taking a 1-point lead with a 120.350. So we've got a little bit of difference happening here. A little separation, but you never know. We're headed into tumbling, and anything can happen in these last 2 events. So starting off with the tumbling duo heat with a starting value of an 8.6, we will see Katie Quinn and Tabela Fashukanu. And they are averaging a 7.78, so they are really going to want to see a season best with that synchronization, the timing, everything, sticky feet with the landings, in order to try to gain that point back from Lander.
Slight timing issue, a little bit of under rotation, but overall, very good tumbling pass.
Absolutely. Great skills being executed there. Like you said, there was that timing. Unfortunately, that is going to play into their score because, again, with this tumbling, until you get to your own individual pass, if you are doing any of those, it is so imperative that you have no room for error on these passes. So, great start from Montevallo. We will move to Lander for their duo pass. They have a starting value of a 9.55. And this duo will be Julie Smitsko and Audra Kaiser. And their average is an 8.78. So, again, I know that they would love to see that raise up. So they're going to want to pull all the stops out and have a season best. But with that, they are going to have to be as synchronized as possible. That timing of all of the body positions in any of the tumbling pass elements that they are doing is going to have to be perfect. All right, while we're waiting for the judges to finish scoring. All right, I think we are ready for Lander now. I think we're all set. Here we go. A little timing there on the end.
But they got back on it.
Man, and those skills they just executed were fantastic. Just like we said, a little timing error there at the end, but across the board, they got it back together. They finished together, and that was a great pass for both girls. All right, up next is the trio for Montevallo. Again, synchronization is going to be key here, especially with 3 people. We talked about 3 is kind of a little easier because you've got somebody to look at, but at the same point,
if you're in the middle,
it only counts for you. So in this trio, we will see Rylan McAllister, Allie Torres, and Morgan Wright. And they're scoring an average of a 7.91. So again, they scored their highest score back in February, so they're definitely going to want to come out and post a season high for this event. As a reminder, Montevallo does have a starting value of 8.75. Very nice. Very nice. That was exactly what they needed. Great timing, great sticky feet there at the end. That's what Montevallo needed. All right, up next in the trio for Lander, we are going to see Jade Gerard, Michaela Crunson, and Jalen Barentes. They have a starting value of an 8.75. They've been averaging a 7.87 this season. So, again, this is another group that is really looking to have their season's best, not just for this event today, but just to be able to go into the rest of today with a little bit more confidence to kind of give your season's best today is exactly what you want to do.
A little timing issue and the knee down, but other than that, really good tumbling pass. 1.5s are really hard to do, so whenever I see people do it, I'm very impressed either way.
Yeah, I will say you could tell she tried to toe drag that knee as soon as she could to be like, nope, my knee wasn't down. So again, I love to see the fight. That is exactly what you want to see. They know that they don't have room for error, so they're trying to do everything that they can to not lose any points as possible. But I was like, oh, I see that little scoot. I like the fight for it. So we're going to get ready to move into our final group tumbling with the quad before we begin our solo tumbling. So for Montevallo, we will see Taylor Spaney, Michaela Robinson, Olivia Preston, and Tracy Leopold. They've got a starting value of an 8. And they are averaging a 7.44. So again, these are girls that are going to want to see their season's best. And we kind of mentioned that at the beginning of this section, that it is so important for Montevallo in order to try to gain that point back from Lander that they have season high totals for their tumbling. Again, this group from Montevallo has a starting value of an 8. Wow, that was great.
Very good sync for those fulls.
Those are the kind of fulls you want to see synchronized.
Toes pointed, no pikiness.
Toes pointed, solid landing, finishing at exactly the same time. Very nicely done by the quad group from Montevallo. All right, up next, the final quad group of the day. From Lander University, we will see Ashlyn Shively, Danielle Cusido, McKenna Monkellen, and Chloe Powers. This group has a starting value of 8. They're averaging a 7.58, so they're really going to need to see a season's best in order to keep this lead against Montevallo. Their highest score of the season was an 8, and it came back in February. So they've been close with a 7.8, 7.6, but they've got to get close to that starting value in order to keep this lead against the Falcons.
Very good, clean, crisp landings. There was a little bit
timing on that full. Yeah, I saw a little slow rotation on that full. However, finished clean, not too bad. Probably not exactly the score they were going to hope for, but nonetheless, very clean and consistent. So we will move into the final 3 heats for this. We will have the aerial pass, the 6-element pass, and the open pass. And these are my favorite. These are just jaw-dropping tumbling passes from these teams. I mean, if you'll almost think to yourself, how did they do that? How are they going that fast and flipping that quick? And it's so entertaining, but at the same time, this absolutely shows the diversity of the athleticism on these teams. Because these girls are doing some of the most elite tumbling passes that we have available. We've got a couple of, I believe, 10 start values. Yep, we've got Lander will have a start value of a 10 for their open and a 10 for their aerial. So we should see some of the hardest ones that you can compete. All right, up first from Montevallo is Tracy Leopold. In the aerial pass, she has a starting value of a 9.75. Her average score is at 8.28, so Tracy is going to have to do everything she can to have a perfect pass. And she did it. She did it. She must have heard me from my mouth to her ears.
Very beautiful whips.
Those whips were so nice, and they were. I love a crisp whip. I love a crisp whip.
On her toes and kept the same speed the whole entire time.
Which can be hard, especially when you do those double whips, because you almost have so much force going into that first one that you have to pray, am I going to get around that quick for the second time? Well, that was a great start for Montevallo. They needed that. All right. Up for Lander is Julie Smitsko. Julie has a start value of 10. She has seen an average of a 9.08. She has had a 7.25 this season. However, she also had a 6.5 at one point this season. So we really got to have Julie pull out all the stops here today. We're going to send the good juju down to her just like we did for Tracy. And guys, this crowd knows how close this meet is and how close these scores have been so far. So you can tell it's getting a little tense in the air.
Not even with the athletes, with the parents.
Yeah, no, it's parents. It's the fans directly below us. The kids are fine. The athletes are doing great. It's the parents are like, oh, they're getting a little stressed down there. All right, again, with a start value of 10, this is Julie Smitsko with the aerial pass.
Very nice. Chris King, you did it again.
We did. Hey, listen, whatever juju I've got up here that I'm sending down to these solo passes, you guys are welcome. That was a beautiful pass. And honestly, from that opening punch front all the way through, I mean, she just had so much force behind every single skill that she put out. They say all hail juju. Oh, that's adorable.
I love how they have different celebrations for.
We saw crowd surfing earlier. Yeah, we've seen lots of fun celebrations. We saw crowd surfing. We see spirit tunnels. We heard all hail juju. I mean, I'm here for it.
Sellies.
I am here for it.
We had a 6-7 earlier.
We did have a 6-7 earlier. I didn't realize that it was still cool to say it. I have a 12-year-old son, and if I say it, I am so not cool if I throw the 6-7 out there. So I'm glad to hear the college girls are doing it, because then at least I have an excuse. I can say, well, the college girls were doing it, because he is so mortified if I drop a 6-7. And he'll be even more mortified that I brought it up on this broadcast. All right, we are headed into the 6-element pass. Competing for Montevallo is Ryla McAllister. She has a start value of a 9.55 and an average score of an 8.09. So Ryla needs to have the pass of a lifetime. And boy, did she do it. Did she do it?
We are giving all the good juju.
We really are.
Athletes.
We really are. That may honestly be one of her highest scores of the season, based off of how she has done so far. I mean, now's the time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
If there's ever a time to do it, it's now. Oh, she gets to wear a crown for a stick. I love that. It fell off her head, but that's adorable. She had a little stick crown on. All right, and for the sixth element from Lander, we will have Audra Kaiser. Audra is on the all-conference team for Conference Carolinas. She's had a great season. She will have a starting value of a 9.55. And she has had a season average of a 9.27. So she is inching so close to getting to that start value. She's had a season high score 2 weeks ago against Newberry with a 9.375. So, man, Audra, from my lips to your ears, have a day. Have a great day.
Very nice. Very nice.
Very clean. All those elements were there. Couldn't have asked for a better pass. That was great.
Crowd surf. Another crowd surfing.
I love the crowd surf. I think the crowd surf might be my favorite celebration. Because, again, you really got to trust those people underneath you. And they've already been holding you up all day long, and then you're like, hey, hold me again.
Hold me again. I also like the bowling one.
Yes, the bowling one is good. Yes, the bowling one is good. I will say a lot of what we're seeing with these solo passes are you are having a very great opportunity to see every element executed extremely well so far. Even with the fulls, the whips, like we have seen so much just great tumbling. But again, when you have these solos, you have a little bit more opportunity to watch and to see exactly what they're executing. And so to be able to see both teams so far execute these passes so nicely, and that makes it really easy for the judges too, because they can check all those boxes. But at the same time, this is some really great individual tumbling. All right, this final heat will be the open pass. For Montevallo, we will see Allie Torres. Allie has a start value of an 8.75. And she averages an 8.49 this season. She'll need to have her season's best here. Very nice.
Very nice, simple round up back handspring 1.5. I like how her 1.5 is. She doesn't speed it up too much, but it's also not broken up. So
exactly.
You can see.
And to hit it at the end, too, is so difficult because you've got to make sure you have that step out and keep that part clean as well, not overstep and trip over your own feet. So, huge props to her because finishing with that is very tough, and you've really got to trust your instincts on exactly where you're going to land.
Yeah, the blind landings, we don't mix.
No. Oh, absolutely not. Those blind landings are why I just had a knee surgery. So at my age, you definitely do not miss those. So just know that in 10 years' time. All right, and with this last pass from Lander to finish out the tumbling element of today's meet will be Jaden Azari. Jaden has a start value of a 10, and she has been averaging a 9.62 this season. She had her highest score coming 2 weeks ago against Newberry, so today's a day to have a good day, Jaden.
Three
whips. I'm going, oh my stars, 3 whips is nuts. What a way to end that.
To a 1.5. That is amazing.
And 3 strong whips. She never once dialed back at all in that pass. That was fantastic. All right, while we're waiting for these final scores to come up, we are going to talk about our final event. This is my favorite event of all of the events. This is the team event. This is what we've been building towards this entire meet. Every skill we've seen, acro, pyramid, toss, tumbling, and a little dance there at the end. It's all going to come together in one final routine. It's the longest, it's the most demanding, and it's the most important event of the meet. And if you can't tell already, it is probably going to be what decides who goes to the conference championships tomorrow and whose team season is most likely done. Montevallo does actually come in with the advantage with a season average score of an 82.82, and they've had the most consistent scoring for the last 3 meets, so that's going to make it a little bit more difficult for Lander. So they've really got to step up their team event score today because Montevallo is coming in with that advantage.
I think no matter what, both these teams should be very proud of what they've done in this meet 100%. So far.
This has been an incredible meet. When I tell you, I could not even imagine who's going to win this right now.
Both these teams have shown so much grit, discipline, confidence in what they've put out on the floor. So now it's just time for them to give us a show and give it all they got for the last 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
At Conference Carolinas, we are committed to providing our student athletes with an unparalleled championship experience like what you are watching today. Please visit conferencecarolinas.com/championships to learn more about the 25-26 Conference Carolinas championship schedules. All right, we've got the scores for tumbling. In the duo heat, Montevallo has a 6.950, and Lander had a 9.025. In the trio heat, Montevallo with an 8.2 and Lander with a 7.375. In the quad heat, Montevallo with a 7.4 and Lander with a 7.275. In the aerial heat, Montevallo with a 9.525 and Lander with a 9.750. In the sixth element, Montevallo with a 9.150 and Lander with a 9.275. And rounding out with the open pass heat, Montevallo with an 8.525 and Lander with a 9.7. So, add them up at home. Montevallo has a 169.050. And Lander has pulled away just a little bit with a 172.750. So we are seeing a little bit of a point difference, but this team event is going to be what makes or breaks these groups. It is going to determine who is going to go to the conference championship tomorrow. Neither team can take any misses on this.
Nope. 0.1 can be the difference right now.
Absolutely.
So they're going to want to take a deep breath right now, really think about what they're going to do, take it step by step, and not worry about what Lander will do next. They need to focus solely on themselves and just have a good time out there.
Absolutely. Starting off with some bridge pyramids. Great strength. Honestly, great timing on that rotation to the dismount. That can be tough, especially with the type of dismount they chose to go with. That can be a little bit more difficult to keep the timing up.
A little timing off of the hand tucks.
Nice aerial tucks. Another set of aerial tucks. Those are quite difficult to do. That is very impressive.
Yes, they are. Got some toe kisses. Getting ready to go.
A little bit of timing in one of the middle groups. They released a little early, and we've got a little bit of the inversions curving in. All in all, not bad. Kept the timing, kept their core going. Nice tosses. A little high on that right-hand side and a little lower on the left. Would have loved to have seen them match up just a smidge bit more. Seeing some really nice synchronized timing. Great last pass right there. That was beautiful timing. This is what we talked about in the previous meet, is that this can be one of the most hard things to do because you are putting your body through every single thing, and then you are still expected to put somebody above your head. Setting up for some tosses. Nice timing. This is a very strong program for Montevallo. A lot of tumbling in this program, too.
It's so hard to do a 1.5 this late in the routine, and they are killing it.
And they're doing it late in the routine at that. And finishing up with their dance, they know that they've had a great team event so far. Very nice. Very nice. They should be very proud of that. That was exactly what you want, and that's why they have the Coach of the Year. What an excellent routine from Montevallo. We've really got to shout out their coach, Katie Horstman, is the Coach of the Year, which, you know, they're not the undefeated team, they're not the ranked team, but they are a team that has improved tremendously week after week after week, and she absolutely deserves to have that Coach of the Year title. And we just saw really probably what got her that, because that team event was fantastic.
They put their heart out on the mat, and it showed.
Absolutely. All right, we are going to move into our final event. It is going to be Lander in their team event. Lander has a total value for this event at a 98.88. They do average an 82.65, and their highest score came 2 weeks ago at Newberry. So they need a season high here today. They have no room for error. They've got to stick every landing. They've got to have every top in the air with all the strength humanly possible. This is going to be the most important event that Lander does today.
One slip up with Lander, and Montevallo is in the lead.
Absolutely.
So, like with Montevallo, they really got to take their time, recenter, breathe, take it step by step, and just go out there and have fun and do what they know how to do and not overthink it too much. And I'm sure that both teams are very confident going out there, but it's also very nerve-wracking knowing how close the scores are.
Oh, absolutely.
My heart is beating fast up here, and I'm not even competing.
I know. I'm over here like my palms are sweating. Who's going to win?
Had to bring the stress ball out.
Oh, yes, you did. I think that's what makes it so fun in here right now, though, is that the crowds are both so excited to just see who wins. But it is so important that this team event hits, because we've already seen a wonderful routine from Montevallo. We would love to see a hit from Lander, and we'll make it really hard for these judges. All right, coming to the floor for the final event of the evening is Lander with the team event. They need to have the score of the season to take this win over Montevallo.
Very nice pulls to open up the routine.
And both sets of synchronized standing tumbling, both were great. Sometimes it's hard to have your eyes looking at both, but they both had great. And there again, right there, setting up for some tosses. Beautiful.
Beautiful Arabian pull.
Very great.
I love how they can tumble back to back because it just shows the endurance that they have in these routines.
And to have this type of endurance at the end of a meet is unbelievable. If you guys didn't know they were athletes, you sure do know now.
These are 2-minute and 45-second routines.
Really got to have that quad squeeze here. Very solid.
Good timing.
A little early, but the elements were hit. The straddle was great timing.
Still have all their composure.
Great
really
timing. Great timing.
Now to the running tumbling sequence.
And as we saw, Lander has great tumbling from the last event. A little stumble there.
On that 1.5.
Great save, though. You're right.
Ooh. They got some springy feet.
Just glad to see no hands touching the ground. We like to see the fight. Setting up for some more tosses. Pretty.
One a little higher. But
yeah.
Good round up pull.
Little off on the timing there, but picked it back up. Nice. Cartwheel full. Very nice. Lander really needs to stick this last part. Everybody needs to work together here. A little wobbly on that left side, but they saved it.
Good.
Very nice.
They really fought their whole way through this routine, and it showed. And
okay, cartwheel full. We saw you. Man,
wow. It's going to be close. It's going to be so close.
This is going to come down to the wire. And, folks, this is what we want to see. We want to see two teams absolutely fighting to the core for this finals ticket.
Both teams will definitely be holding their breath to get these two
I think we're all going to be holding our breath. I got to give a shout out to Lander's assistant coach, Madison Owens. She and her sister McCaffrey, by the way, they are identical twins. They both were on the tumbling or the acro tumbling team at Lander. But more importantly, I had them as students when they were in high school. I did choreography for them when they were in a musical theater show, and I got to give them both a shout out because McCaffrey is not here, but Madison is here as an assistant coach. So, McCaffrey, if you're listening, proud of both of you. You guys are awesome. Conference Carolinas would like to thank our corporate partners, Athletic Solutions, Atlantic Casualty Insurance Company, Bob McCloskey Insurance, Box Out Sports, Big Pair Sports, Buffin and Baker, Builder Services of North Carolina, Championship Award Guys, ConferenceCarolinas.travel.com, Digital Scoreboards, Engine, Field Turf, Hometown Ticketing, Hourathon, Huddle, the Marriott of Spartanburg, McGriff Insurance Services, McMallen Pasden Smith, Podium X, Rocket Alumni Solutions, Sidearm Sports, Southern Recognition LLC, South State Bank, Sports Performance Tracking, Spry, Team Builder, Ticket Smarter, U-Report, and last but not least, Vernon Graphics and Promotions. Please visit conferencecarolinas.com/corporate partners to learn more about Conference Carolinas corporate partners. Once again, that is conferencecarolinas.com/corporate partners to learn more about Conference Carolinas corporate partners.
It's been a long day.
It's been a long day. It's been a long day. My brain is mush with all of this, all these numbers and the crunching of the calculating, and I'm glad it's not me that has to, add anything up. Y'all would be very disappointed.
but we are enjoying ourselves, even though it has been a long day. It has been
so much fun. And it's been so much fun. This is your first time ever calling a bee. And by the way, you've done 2 today, and you have absolutely crushed it, Jada. I'm so proud of you. You guys would never know, but it's so much fun to get to hear your perspective, especially as a current student athlete. I love to be able to hear the perspectives of, things that you guys compete in, stuff that's been hard for you as an athlete, stuff that you found has been a great transition because you were a cheerleader. Mm-hmm. So, you kind of, there's some things in which you're kind of having to learn all over again or learn a different technique behind it, which when you're over the age of 18 can be a little harder.
Yeah, no, this has definitely been fun. It's been nice to talk acro again and get to watch it with us not having a season this year and it being my senior year. So this has been a lot of fun, and I'm excited to come back and do it again tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, girl. We're going to have a blast tomorrow.
It's going to be very interesting with the event finals and then the championship meet right after.
Well, as a reminder, we will be back on air tomorrow at 11 a.m. for the event finals. We will see teams from across the conference who qualified for these event finals. And then we will have our championship meet tomorrow at 5 p.m. All right, we've got the final scores. In the team event, Montevallo scored an 84.7. And in the team event, Lander scored of 85.530, which, if you are smarter than I and you are calculating at home, Montevallo with a final score of 253.750. And Lander with a final score of 258.280.
So there it is, folks.
Lander
will see the revenge tour of Lander and Wingate tomorrow at 5 p.m.
Absolutely. Lander rose to the moment, and with the crowd behind them and the pressure building, they stayed composed and they delivered when it mattered most. It was a complete performance, and like we said, the Bearcats are headed to the championship finals tomorrow with momentum on their side to meet the number 1 seed, Wingate, to hopefully avenge their regular season loss. For everyone who joined us today for semifinal 1 and semifinal 2, we want to thank you for spending your afternoon with us, and thank you for being part of an incredible semifinal here at Conference Carolina's Acrobatics and Tumbling Championship Weekend. Championship Sunday is set between number 1 Wingate and number 2 Lander for tomorrow at 5 p.m. Again, don't forget to tune in tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. for the individual event finals, and then we'll see you again at 5 for the championship meet. For my friend Jada right here, I'm Anna Catherine English, and we'll see you live here tomorrow from the Shaw Athletic Center at Emmanuel University to find out who will be our 2026 Conference Carolinas Acrobatic and Tumbling Conference Champion. Have a great night.